The Capital Forum is an exchange of emerging views and cues from leaders in the realms of politics, business, finance, healthcare, and law. The Capital Forum.
Good morning. This is Rajesh and Mehra, your host for this 60-minute edition of the Capital Forum. The Capital Forum is a proud presentation of GTV, Global Television Network. Our other TV shows are Chitramala at 11 a.m., Salam India at 12:30 p.m., and Facets of Religions of India at 1 p.m. Here on the Capital Forum, we will feature politics, business transactions, law, healthcare, and finance. The leaders of these fields will keep you updated in today's day and time. We will start today's show with the Congressional Corner. This is hosted by Mr. Frank Islam, who is the CEO and chairman of FI Investment Group, located in Tysons Corner, Virginia. His guest today is the Honorable Dr. Harswarup Singh. Dr. Singh, besides being a political power and a true friend to the community, is also an author. He has published several articles and also written books.
How was your second political job as a member of India's very powerful planning commission?
That was also a good job. Unfortunately, it did not last very long because it's a political appointment. And
how long were you there?
About a year.
About a year. I'm sure you made some impact there.
Well, we tried. 1 year was not enough. But what I tried to do, and some of my colleagues, we had a very good planning commission. People like Rajni Kothari, L.C. Jain,
sure,
and Vaidyanathan.
This is during what administration was?
This was
BJP?
VP Singh.
Oh, VP.
VP
Oh,
Singh.
okay. Prime Minister Singh.
Prime Minister VP Singh. And TN Session, incidentally, was also a member.
Sure.
What we tried to do was to decentralize more, because we did not like the system of socialistic planning that Pandit Nehru had adopted.
I have a lot of admiration and respect for Prime Minister Nehru.
I do too. Except
both of us share a common history and heritage, as well as admiration for Prime Minister Nehru.
We showed he was a wonderful man.
He was.
But in terms of economic planning,
I hear you.
I beg to differ.
I hear you loud and clear.
We decided that it would be better to give more power to the states.
Yeah.
And center should do as little as possible guidance.
So empower the state government.
We empowered the state governments, decentralized center schemes.
Well, that's a good thing to do.
So that was our achievement during that 1 year, and some of that stuck.
It still is there.
It still is there. We have fortunately been moving towards allowing free enterprise to prosper and help the country to develop.
No question about it. India is doing great. As I understand, after you left the policy planning fields, then you went as the governor of Pondicherry Union Territory. And I'm not familiar with that is. As you know, I'm also from India, but I wouldn't know where this place is. Can you elaborate where that is, and what was your job was as the governor of that wonderful territory? Where is this?
Pondicherry has 4 territories, in fact, but the main one, Pondicherry, is in Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
East of Madras.
East of Madras.
And on the coast.
Okay.
And it was a French territory. And after independence, the French allowed independence. But they wanted India to have these 4 union territories in one big union territory called Pondicherry. So one is on the west coast, Mahe.
Okay.
Surrounded by Kerala. One is Andhra Pradesh, and 2 in Tamil Nadu.
It's still there?
It's still there. It was a condition of the French to grant independence. They said this is the condition. You will have to keep it as a union territory.
And what's the difference between a union territory or part of the central government as in a state? They have the same right?
They don't have the same right. Union territories are governed by the center.
Okay.
I reported to the president.
President of India.
Now, of course, Prime Minister was a real person.
Sure.
But in terms of constitutional fineness,
sure.
we were responsible directly
okay.
to the President of India. It was a good setup. We have Delhi as a union territory. We have Chandigarh, a small one. We have Nicobar,
okay.
Andaman Nicobar as
okay.
union territory.
Okay.
So the structure is that the governor, called Lieutenant Governor, is the governor.
Okay.
And his other title is Chief Administrator.
So the governor is appointed by the President of India?
Governor is appointed by the
President of India.
And in the states, the Chief Minister rules. In the Union Territory,
the governor rules. I understood it. Now, after this things that you talk about being the governor of this wonderful territory, you moved on to become an ambassador to, as I understand, to Maldives. Now, where is this place, Maldives, and can you tell us a little bit about it, and how did you enjoy it, and what was it like?
Maldives is one of the most beautiful island nation.
Okay, and is this located where?
It is
in a part of the Indian Ocean somewhere?
Part of Indian Ocean. It is south of India. It is west of Sri Lanka and east of Africa.
So it's an island?
It's an island nation.
Okay.
There are 120 or more islands that are inhabited.
Okay.
Inhabited. The rest are there.
Okay.
There are several hundred.
Okay.
And it's most beautiful coral islands, colorful, palms swaying, white sand and colorful water. It is one of the best places.
So that's very scenic. So what about the culture?
Culturally, it is a good bit influenced by India, because
they're Indian people origin, the Indian origin?
These were the Indian origin people.
Okay.
And from Sri Lanka.
Okay.
Two places.
Well, which is still Asian, South Asian continent.
Right. And then many people came from Africa later on.
Okay.
And they brought Islam to these islands.
So this place is all Islamic culture?
It's
very secular?
It's 100% Islamic, but they are very secular. It's a very tolerant form of Islam, and the president.
And that's the kind of example that other people in other part of the world can embrace.
Yes, and they're good Muslims. The president had studied.
They're practicing Muslim.
They're practicing Muslims. The president studied at Al Azhar University in Cairo.
In Egypt, yes.
He has a degree in religion.
Wow.
And yet they felt that religion is something that should not be overbearing and ruling all aspects of life.
So people are treated fairly without their, irrespective of their religion, caste, creed, background, or belief.
Yes,
that's a wonderful thing to do.
Sects, yes, they.
You enjoyed your time there.
I enjoyed my
besides
time.
the palm trees.
Besides the palm trees and the.
So culturally, you were able to engage.
Yes, and we were able to do a number of things. We established a system of education.
Okay.
We established a technical institute. We had environmental studies, and we had projects with a center run by Anil Agarwal in Delhi. And we did a lot. We had we improved their parliamentary system through advice.
Yeah, of course.
And,
advice that makes sense.
It was really wonderful working with them. And
well, great.
We established an a 200-bed hospital, a modern hospital, which had more advanced equipment than most of our Indian hospitals had.
Well, that's a wonderful thing to do. So that was a great contribution of your contribution as well as the contribution of India. Now, since you have been out of the United States and India and you returned to the United States, what have you been doing?
Well, I continue consulting.
Consulting in what areas?
In economic development,
Okay.
Food security. I did a project for World Food Program on food security in South Asia.
South Asia.
SAARC region. Then I did a number of projects here. I also had 1 year in California working on a project as chief editor. I do editing also as a part-time.
You're pretty busy.
Yes, I try to keep busy.
And how do you help to the Indian community, the South Asian communities? What is your engagement? What's your involvement? And what do you think they are and what they need to do? Besides the fact there are two governors from the two states, the Indian people have made a lot of contribution to this country, and they have prospered, and they have grown with the political system that we have in America. What's your thoughts on this?
I am very happy that we are progressing. One is that our associations have been doing good work in terms of cultural events and Independence Day and Republic Day and picnics. But I have been saying that besides these very good activities, the activities we enjoy with each other
Sure.
and with our guests,
Sure.
we should do something meaningful. We should run soup kitchens. We should do
So
health
get
tourism.
involved in the community
Get involved in the community where you live.
and help those who are helpless
Right.
and who doesn't have the voice. What a noble cause, what a noble thing to do.
And we succeeded. We had a few very good health clinics. And also do things for the community that they may not be able to do on their own. In collaboration with the Indian Embassy, we had a session on PIO card, OCI and PIO card.
Right.
People did not know what are the procedures.
So you needed to broadcast it to the wider community, tell them the benefits that they will have
Right.
if they have those cards.
We had a session, and 2 ministers came and a counselor, and the people from the Trevisa, the people to whom the day-to-day job has been outsourced. It was a very successful session. So I feel that it's fine. We should act more in the field of political
So you want to see deeper and broader political engagement for the Indian community, am I correct?
Yes. For instance, it's great. I'm very happy we have 2 governors. I would like, well, there is no cabinet member so far.
There's no sub-cabinet either.
No sub-cabinet either. Now we
No
deserve
ambassadors.
No ambassadors. Well, there is one. But
Who's
now,
that?
there's a gentleman who was a class fellow of President Obama. He is in some
Okay.
small country.
Okay.
Now, I'm not belittling the importance of Mauritius or Trinidad Tobago, but in political terms, these are lightweights.
Sure, sure.
Why don't we have an ambassador to
Sure not.
Germany?
Or Western
to
Europe.
Brazil.
Or Asia.
Or to Japan.
Yeah.
And believe you me, and you know the Indian community very well.
Sure.
With your deep engagement. There are a number of people, I could name a dozen of my friends,
Sure.
who would make excellent ambassadors. They have the training.
And they're willing to serve our country.
They are willing to serve the country.
As a matter of fact, they want to engage themselves. So I think that's and I would hope that when they get engaged more politically, they will be able to serve our country, and hopefully they'll become an ambassador. Hopefully one day. Now tell me a little bit about your book. I love this book, Indian bureaucracy. Yeah, the word bureaucrats is obviously not a very shining symbol in our country all over the world. So tell me a little bit about this book.
This book, Mr. Islam, came about because I had been thinking about the subject for a very long time. I remember when I went back after doing my graduate studies in this country, I saw in Illustrated Weekly a set of articles on ICS and I.
ICS, Indian civil servant?
Indian civil servants
Okay.
who wrote about their experiences. There are 8 or 9 articles.
Okay.
I cut them. They had yellowed and frayed, but I still have that. And I felt that we have not adapted the system. It was said about ICS, Indian civil servant, and some of the WAG said, why? They are not Indians, because at that time most were British. They are not Indians, they are not civil, and they are not servants of the country. So now we started Indian Administrative and Allied Services. But the basic structure has been kept. And we have kept bureaucrats, the word that you used earlier, the generalists, rather than having specialists, rather than having technocrats. And so much power was centered, concentrated in the hands of these people, who, by the way, are brilliant.
They are.
My only question is, with the problem being systemic. I like the individuals, the ones who worked for me, the ones for whom I worked in my early career. It's just the fact that we have not changed the structure, as many American observers have said. And the ICS people, Mr. T.N. Call,
Sure.
he has said that we should change with the times. And many people in the IAS, I have quoted cabinet secretaries, my friend Manishankar Iyer I have quoted,
Yes.
who says that IAS should be reduced, should be paired to a very small service. And with great difficulty, Indian Economic Service was created when the threats were there, and it was not an easy for economists to come up.
I totally agree with what you're saying, but the thing which is near dear to me that I want to have it said to work, have you say a few words about the rooting out the corruptions in India.
Well, it is.
It's a very corrupt society.
It's a very, very corrupt society, unfortunately, and again, it's a good bit of it, not all, can be corrected by having proper bureaucratic procedures.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. I said in the university, there are people applying for scholarships, fellowships.
Right.
We got a lot of offers.
Sure.
Being a leading university, I said all the applicants' name and basic qualifications would be on the board. So everybody knows. I mean, if then the vice chancellor.
So what you're saying is
be.
there's got to be transparency and accountability. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
I do want to thank you for your time, Mr. Ambassador.
My
and
pleasure.
I really enjoyed talking with you. You are indeed a source of inspiration to all of us in our community, in this country and all over the world. And thank you for your service to India. And this is our show. This is Frank Islam wishing you a great week. Thank you for watching.
Coming up next, we have business and immigration law updates. As the world turns, there are often significant changes within business transactions, rules, regulations, and legal matters. To keep us abreast with these movements, Mr. Ramesh Khurana from the Khurana Law Firm will take the lead. The Khurana Law Firm is located in Rockville, Maryland. Along with attorney Khurana in dialogue is Dr. Rajesh Mehra. Together, these two professionals will focus on the significance of priority dates for green card. Let's join them.
Good morning. This is Dr. Rajesh Mehra, and I appreciate you tuning us into your homes this morning, and welcome to the Capital Forum. This forum is designed to bring prominent people in our community of the Metro DC area to talk and educate you from everything from medicine to law, as well as some business features that are going on. This morning, I'm most delighted to have join me again, as in the past, Attorney Khurana. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Mehra.
But well, from your last presentation, we had a lot of emails and comments because this is a very hot topic these days. And we're starting a series on immigration law, immigration practice, immigration rules. And we touched on this concept about priority date. Why don't you recap for our audience what you touched on, and then I think I have a few more questions about it.
Sure, Dr. Mehra. It's my pleasure being here this morning. Dr. Mehra, when we talk about the priority date concept, like as I mentioned very briefly, of course, for want of time, we could not finish
Go on and on, right?
Concept, right? So I would like to elaborate on that concept first, as you rightly asked me. The concept of priority date is basically the registration of an application or petition which has been filed by any person for the immigration benefit. So whenever a person, let's say that he's trying to sponsor his parents who are living in India. So he's filing a relative petition, we call it I-130 for his parents. So when this application reaches the USCIS, now USCIS is just an agency of the Department of Homeland Security. So when it reaches USCIS, if the application is properly signed by the applicant and proper fee has been paid along with the application.
Which is what?
It's $420.
Okay.
And if it is found acceptable by the USCIS, they issue a receipt notice that we have received the necessary fee and the application. Along with that, they will indicate the priority date. So this is how that
date gets set.
Yes, registration date or the priority date gets set. And you know, like there is a rationing of green card numbers. So whosoever comes first, whosoever stands first in the queue, he gets served.
First come, first served.
First served.
Got it. Now, can one foreign national have more than one qualifying petition, or is just one person, one petition?
A foreign national definitely can have more than one qualifying application. Now, if we are talking about immigration-based petitions, let us say that the foreign national is working with company A. Now, company A has filed a green card petition for the foreign national. Now, he also has an intent to work with probably company B at some point of time. So he approaches company B, and if company B is willing to file another petition for the foreign national, so that could be filed. So practically speaking, a person can have two or three.
Oh, more than one.
Or more than one, or I will say multiple applications. So there's absolutely no problem.
But does that really increase the chance of getting through the system quicker, or it's just like buying 10 lottery tickets? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Some of us buy 10 lottery tickets, some buy one, but does it, in the big schema, increase your chance of getting the lottery?
Dr. Mehra, there could be two possibilities when a person would like to file, let us say, two applications. Now, there are different preference categories. And for those different preference categories, there is a separate queue. Now, let us say a person has filed a petition for EB2. Now, EB2, which is basically for master degree or advanced degree holders, the queue moves much faster. As we talked during our last segment, and priority dates have really been
Revved
becoming
up a little
correct.
bit,
Yes.
right.
Now, a person who had, let's say, just bachelor degree, he didn't have 5 years of experience. Over a period of time, now he accumulates work experience. Let's say it's more than 5 years. So bachelor degree plus 5 years of work experience would make him eligible to file under EB2 category. So he can approach another employer to file a different petitions for EB2 category. So then, of course, the question asked was whether it really speeds
Increases
up.
the
Yes,
chance.
it does speed up because he has moved from EB3 category to EB2.
EB2.
Yeah.
Got it. Now, as far as the priority date, how does it work when you're talking about a spouse or a child into this whole thing?
When we are talking about a spouse or child, so this is covered under family-based visa bulletin. So when the priority date becomes current for the parents or parent, depending upon whatever is the case, so it becomes current for the child simultaneously. But the caveat is, if the child turns over 21, then there is a problem.
Okay.
Then there are different set of regulations.
Rules.
Yeah, you know, we have a Child Status Protection Act, but it needs to be understood. But we can say that when the child turns over 21, because he's no longer dependent upon his parents, and most of the times he gets deprived of the benefit of the petition or the application.
That's very interesting. It sounds like, as we're talking about these things, that and that's why you have attorneys like yourself who do this, that it's complex. These things are not just like, you know, filing an application on the internet. And I mean, you can do that too, I guess, but that would be a sort of a long, drawn-out process if you don't understand all these idiosyncrasies that you just mentioned. Now, what is the green card or immigrant visa retrogression? What does that term mean?
Dr. Mehra, this retrogression term is again very important, and this has to be understood by the people who are standing in the queue, because their priority dates are not current, or either these have become current. So by retrogression means it goes backwards. So not that priority dates move forward, but sometimes because of overutilization or when these are oversubscribed, these might go back.
And what do you mean oversubscribed?
The oversubscription means that, let us say for a particular preference category, 50,000 numbers are available. But during that particular month, more than 50,000 applications are made.
Okay.
So demand is more than the supply.
Okay.
So everybody's priority date which became current during the particular month
Will move backward.
because he could not be serviced.
Right.
He could not be serviced. And this visa bulletin, which is issued by the State Department, that is valid only for 1 month.
Oh.
So this is basically is based on how the demand and supply are going to work.
Right.
And if demand is more than the supply,
Which is always the case.
most of the time,
Right.
because this demand is coming not only from the service centers here in the United States, demand is also coming from the embassies and consulates worldwide.
Wow.
So it is very difficult to make a real guess,
Right.
like how much demand
What
is
is
going
going
to
to
be,
be the case,
how much
right.
demand is going to be. So that's why now at some particular point of time, U.S. State Department would say that we are making priority date current for this particular category, let's say up to January of 2011. So there is a flow of applications which would make it overflow.
Got it.
And in addition to that, USCIS has also to decide its own priorities. Let's say if elections are coming in the United States. Now more and more applicants would file their applications for naturalizations. They would like to become citizens because they like to vote. So number of applications for naturalization goes up. So at that point of time, maybe USCIS as a policy matter decides to devote more resources to process naturalization applications. If that happens, now even though priority date is current for the green card applications, but resources are limited, so those applications cannot be
Right.
processed.
They'd be pushed back. Right. So
So-
it's really the State Department, or I mean the USIS, having limited staff to process this massive amount of applications.
Exactly. But at the same time, based on the expected number of applications, they have to fix certain priority dates, because if that is not done,
Well, then the thing wouldn't move at all. Right.
the
Queue
major
would
problem would be that numbers would remain
This
unutilized.
unutilized, right?
You know,
Right.
and unless there is a special legislation, so it's very hard to use those numbers which are not being utilized. Like
Right.
there was AC 21. So AC 21 enabled the USCIS to use unspent numbers. But so that point has also to be kept in view while they are talking about future priority dates.
Future priority. Now, what's the consequences to the petitioner or the applicant who's been waiting for many years?
Very serious consequences.
Okay.
I will give you an example. In July of 2007, priority dates for all the preference categories under the employment-based category, that became current. Now, with the result, all those applicants or petitioners whose labor certification was done, they filed their adjustment of status applications.
Okay.
Now, of course, they got their what we call is work permits. So, but at the same time, they were unable to process all these applications within a month, and moreover, numbers were not available. As we talked in our last segment,
So it didn't matter, right?
only 140,000 numbers are available in a year. So with the result, they couldn't provide
Move
green card
forward,
numbers.
right.
So those applications which were filed in 2007 are being decided now.
Oh my.
After
So it's
5 years,
years.
after 5 years. So this is called retrogression. So to answer your question, what happens, there are serious consequences. Now let's talk about a person is sitting in India. His priority date becomes current today. The person has to wind up. He
Right.
starts disposing of,
Well, the business, family, money, house, all the
you know, and next thing he hears is that priority date is no longer current.
got pushed.
Maybe
right.
that person has to wait for 4 years,
Right.
5 years, who knows
Life
when the
has
priority
to
date is
start.
going to become current.
Right.
So there are dangerous consequences, and people have got to be very careful. They should not rush in making decision like when the priority date has
Till
become
is
current.
really-
Only thing they can do is they can complete their documentation.
Right, right. Well, again, I'm just totally flabbergasted at the complexity. I never realized that it was so complex, but we appreciate you sharing that with us, and we look forward to having you again next time to talk about some very more interesting topics on immigration and business law. Thank you,
you
sir.
very much, Dr. Mehra, for having me here in your studios.
Thank you.
It's always a great pleasure.
I hope your heart, mind, and soul are all in good shape this morning. With that being said, it's time to step on over to the innovative conversation between Dr. Rajesh Mehra and Dr. Meghal Antani. Dr. Meghal Antani is a well-known interventional radiologist in the Washington, D.C. metro area from the Center of Interventional Medicine. Today, these two doctors will discuss and define exactly what procedures the interventional radiologists are doing. Some of them are complicated, like endovenous ablations, and some of them are performed outpatient, some of them in the hospital. Let's find out more from these two physicians.
Good morning. This is Dr. Rajesh Mehra from Chantilly Family Practice. Welcome to The Pulse. This is a segment we try and bring you on the Capitol Forum to update you on the newest and the greatest advances in the field of medicine. This includes technology, doctors, different philosophies, and maybe also medical economics, because I know that's a very hot topic right now, trying to understand Obamacare, what's upcoming, and how one pays for medical care and so forth. But this morning, I'm very honored to welcome in our studios again Dr. Meghal Antani. Welcome,
Thank you,
sir.
Dr. Mehra.
Dr. Antani is the medical director for the Center for Interventional Medicine. Now, before we get into our topic for the morning, let's ask Dr. Antani to explain to us what exactly is an interventional radiologist. What does that
Sure.
specialty mean?
Well, an interventional radiologist is a physician who does procedures in the body under X-ray guidance.
I see. So that means as an outpatient or an inpatient?
It can be done either way.
Either way. Now, traditionally, are most interventional radiologists hired, or do they work for a hospital, or do they have?
Traditionally, they work for a hospital.
Traditionally, they work for a hospital, but obviously, there are some people like yourself who now have your own centers.
That's correct.
Is that a trend in the whole country or just in this area?
No, it's seen in the whole country. As technology is improving, we're finding that we can take these procedures that were done in the hospital setting and move them out into an outpatient setting where we find it's much more convenient for the patient and still maintain the same safety standards.
Right, because that's very important. I know that a lot of things now are moving towards the outpatient, from surgeries to things,
Correct.
but we want to make sure that the patient's safety and the quality doesn't go down.
Absolutely.
And how is that monitored? I mean, who's monitoring that? Do you have to have an inspection, or do you, for your facility or any facility that any doctor may want to open, how are they inspected? How do they know it's adequate?
That's a good question, and there really is no straight answer to that. There are various inspecting bodies. Sometimes it's depending on the state regulations, so it can vary state to state. Some facilities are certified by an organization called the Joint Commission.
I see.
And they set standards for which these facilities must maintain, but that's optional, not required.
Not required, okay. Now, generically, what kind of procedures are done by your specialty, interventional radiology?
There's a broad range of procedures. They include anything from things that are done inside blood vessels to things that are done other areas of the body. For example, angiogram, angioplasty to open up blocked blood vessels, biopsies under X-ray guidance, various women's health procedures like uterine fibroid embolization or embolization of pelvic varices. Those are just some examples.
So there's a very broad array of things that can
Correct.
be done. And I know one of the most popular things you do, of course, is varicose veins. That sort of
Correct.
seems to be the thing to do and easier than some of the other things. And what exactly, in summary, is a varicose vein?
A varicose vein is a result of blood flow in the legs going the wrong direction. Normally the blood flow in the veins of the leg moves upwards back to the heart. When the blood flow goes downwards towards the legs, because of the valves which fail, that causes blood to pool up in the veins and make them bigger, and that's how one gets varicose veins.
Now, aren't there certain clinical conditions that make these varicose veins in certain women, or men for that matter, more prominent than others, like pregnancy and sitting all day?
Good question. I personally see a number of women patients after, say, 2 or 3 pregnancies, even 1 pregnancy, who almost consistently will get varicose veins. That's just an example.
Just an example. And also obese patients, because
that's another risk factor.
A risk factor.
I'm also seeing family history to be very common.
And that's simply because the pressure is bigger in the area, right? I mean, why does pregnancy cause that?
I don't know if we have a solid answer to that. I would speculate that the fetus pushes down on the venous outflow,
right,
causes the valves to become damaged.
Right, right. And same thing with obesity, right?
Correct.
The weight of the abdomen, the weight of all that causes some reflux. Now, there are many procedures that can be done to correct this problem. What is the most common procedure that you do to correct this problem?
Well, today, to correct the underlying cause, which is known as venous reflux, which is the name for backward blood flow in the veins of the leg, that procedure is called endovenous ablation.
And what does that translate that into the normal terms?
The word ablation simply means to close the vein. So basically, we're closing one of the central veins off of which the varicose veins are branches.
Got it. Now, veins being a very common problem, but besides that, you, of course, do other things like biopsies. What does that mean?
Correct. Well, historically, when somebody had a mass or some kind of unknown something in their body, the patient would have to go to a surgeon, and the surgeon would have to surgically cut that mass out. That's the only way they could figure out what it is.
Right.
And they would send it to a pathologist, who's the doctor who would make the diagnosis of what it is. Today, our technology has improved to a point where we can see inside the body without having to cut someone open. And so we can do these biopsies under various forms of X-ray guidance.
Let me just explain for our viewers. A biopsy simply means taking a little piece of the tissue, part of the body that is abnormal, and sending it to yet another doctor who then examines it under a microscope to determine what the nature of this thing is. Is it a tumor? Is it cancer? Is it a mass? Is it a cyst? So what you're saying is no more do we need a big cut. You can just go in with a small needle or something and get a little piece and send it to the appropriate specialist.
Basically, that's correct.
Fantastic. Now, one of the things that I know is becoming very prominent also is low back pain, right? Which
Sure.
of course is a topic you and I can talk about for several hours, but in summary, people that have chronic back pain, people that have ruptured disc, what kind of techniques or procedures can you do to help those people?
One of the common treatment for that is called spinal epidural injection, and that involves injection of a steroid around the nerve that's coming off the spine that is inflamed because of the ruptured disc.
Mm-hmm. And that is something you can also do under X-ray guidance.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Now, what about people that have a problem with their legs in terms of getting pain when they walk or
Sure.
blockages in the arteries? Because earlier we mentioned blockages in the veins. What about blockage in the artery?
That's called peripheral arterial disease, and that is something that one may experience with increasing age. Symptoms for that include pain that's seen with walking, like in the calf or your thigh, and exactly what you said, that involves blockages in the artery. So it reduces the blood flow going down the legs.
Right, and so begin with, how do you diagnose that?
Peripheral arterial disease is often diagnosed by the family doctor or another primary care physician. They will try to feel the patient's pulses down by the feet and see if they can feel the pulses. If the pulses are reduced, that's a suggestion they may have peripheral artery disease. At that point, the primary doctor may refer the patient for an X-ray test, like an ultrasound or something else, and in that X-ray test, the actual blockage would be identified.
And then they come to you.
Correct.
And then you open it up, or what do you do?
Well, we're doctors, and we want to do what's best for the patient.
Right.
And so it's a question that's based upon the individual situation. And some
Okay.
people, it's better to put them on a medication, encourage them to lose weight, stop smoking. If that doesn't work, or if their blockage is too severe, then we can potentially do a procedure like you suggested.
And what is that called, and how do you do it?
Angioplasty is named for the procedure where we insert a very small balloon into the blockage, open that balloon up, and basically that takes a plaque and pushes it along the side of the walls of the blood vessel and to recreate that open channel.
Yeah. Think of this as basically a tube that's become blocked or clogged with cholesterol. And basically you can cut it out, which is kind of major, or you can bypass it as you do in the heart, or you can throw down the balloon and just make the blood flow again.
Exactly.
Which reduces the pain, the swelling, and the redness and or coldness.
And sometimes if the angioplasty sometimes is not enough, we can put in a metal tube called a stent.
A stent, right. Well, that's we'll talk about that in length, because I know that's, people think of that mainly in the heart, but now I understand it can be done in other parts of the body.
Correct.
So, fantastic. Well, this has been quite educational for our viewers, I'm sure. They will go back to their primary care doctors and talk and discuss. If you have these symptoms, make sure you seek medical advice, see your physician, and let them guide you to the proper specialist that's going to help you treat these symptoms and the conditions the best way they can be. Thank you so much for your
Dr.
time.
Mehra.
Welcome to Who's Who. Here we shall feature outstanding personalities with name and fame. These names will always be remembered. One such personality is Miss Kamla Ji of the Gandhi Center. I am sure many of you are familiar with Kamla Ji's outstanding work at the Gandhi Memorial Center. Let's discover more on Kamla Ji's remarkable work towards the Gandhi Center of the DC metro area from Mr. Frank Islam's interview with her.
And as I understand, you were the center, you were the director of their center, I meant to say.
Yeah.
How did you come to be the director of this center?
That came just with the task of building the institution also. And
So you were involved from the beginning, ground.
from the very beginning, from literally below the ground.
Below the ground.
Below the ground, because
At that time, it was just a
the
hollowed
hole in the
ground.
ground,
It was
hole
a
in the
hollowed ground.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. So the thing is that what would make it Gandhian? That was the task. And I'm sure you can imagine that people from Indian origin kept coming and saying, you need to make khadi, you need to spin, go through all of these things. And I knew that wasn't going to make it in America. And I knew that if I had to wear khadi all the time, nobody would see me very often because I'd be ironing, you know. So the two things which we felt in thinking it through would really make it Gandhian, not just a place, but that the people who would build it and support it would be active in that spirit, that it is completely voluntary. And that was very important from the beginning. Neither I nor anyone who works with the Gandhi Center receives any remuneration, none. And the second, and this people find mystifying, we do no fundraising or solicitation. It's completely non-profit, federally identified, but it is also
Is it tax exempt?
tax exempt, yeah. And also we exist on the kindness and willingness of people to offer resources. And I consider that our resources are not just monetary. Our major resource is human resource. And we depend on people to do the work. We've had, we do our own printing. We're quite self-sufficient in
So you're
most
self-sustaining.
of what we do. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned with regard to the fact it's a tax exempt from the IRS, which
Yes.
is the United States government.
Yes.
And you also mentioned that in terms of financial support, and the most important is not just the financial, but the human capital as well.
Yes.
So the question is, what is the name of its support, financial otherwise? Where does it come from? So it's the people give you the money, donation.
Individual
It's a
donations.
voluntary donations.
Voluntary donations. We have never applied for a grant. It's entirely voluntary donations.
And how many people work there, and what is your budget, and how are you able to sustain this wonderful thing what you do for our nation? And thank you for doing so.
Thank you. You know, it's I kind of consider that the Gandhi Center and its outreach is a cottage industry. That's our industry. Our budget is like any household budget, not to go beyond its means.
Beyond your means.
Idealistically, yes. And but we have, for instance, in the human labor, we've had someone who was a retired FBI regional director who did our printing. We've had people who are engineers, and engineers do mowing the lawn and things like that.
So you're being very innovative.
Yes.
in utilizing wisely
Human potential.
human resources.
Trying to, yes.
Very well said.
Yes.
There are other Indian centers named for Gandhi in America. How are they connected with yours, and how are they similar?
Well, I've been at the dedication of several of them in Ohio.
All over the country?
In this country, I've seen them, I've known their directors, and in fact, if I may say so, I've had invitations for us to open centers or be affiliated with them and directing them. But you know, I think that the heart of any Gandhian institution has to converse with the community in which it's located. Mm-hmm. So that, for instance, in Washington, the strength of our Gandhi Center, being this nation's capital and the capital of the world, has been to draw on the educational facility, the culture, and so forth. Whereas there might be a Gandhi Center in Kansas or in Idaho, and it might be centered with the interests and the strengths and talents of farmers and the laborers and the community there. I think to say Gandhi is pretty much to say infinite as far as expression.
That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, so we don't want to be like a mother church or a mother institution. Let it grow from the source of the people locally, and then of course we're happy to share our example.
How have your personal ideas and ideals about your work changed and developed since the dedication of Gandhi Center in 1976? And that was a long years ago.
Yeah, that's a tough question. I think that...
when I say ideas and ideals,
yes,
I wanted to get your feedback on both topics.
Okay. I think that that it would answer both to say that not just the relevance of Gandhi, but the importance of Gandhi's major thematic values of his life are more necessary and always accessible, but we need to be educated to them. And I'm not talking about nonviolence as a not hit back psychology. That's as unrelated to human life as with a heartache putting a Band-Aid on the chest. It doesn't get to the problem, it doesn't stop the pain. So Gandhi's nonviolence is very strategic. It's strategic, but it's also very fundamental in getting to the ideas of the honesty and simplicity and conduct and the character of life, character of individual life. If I can say it's changed, it's just augmented.
Augmented.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Thank you.
For the better.
I hope. I hope.
As I understand, you've written 2 books on Gandhi. Unfortunately, I do not have it, so I cannot show it to the audience, but I'm sure you'll bring it back some other time. They are not the biographies as such.
No.
Please tell us briefly about your ideas in writing them.
They kind of would show the progress of my ideas too, because they're each constructed basically from the talks and interaction that I've had with people in my work. The first one is called Mahatma Gandhi, An American Profile. And I've tried in this book to relate Gandhi's ideas in such a way that they seem neither foreign nor remote to people in this country or abroad. And I trace them back in their link to, believe it or not, beginning with the American Indian.
American Indians.
With Emerson and Thoreau.
Yes.
So not so much politics and current social issues or those, but that idealism, and then the second part, bringing Gandhi's basic ideas. The second book was written also from basic talks at different places, and it goes into what are the characteristics of one who practices ahimsa in the world today?
Mm-hmm.
What is the projections of Gandhi for the future? What were Gandhi's ideas with education? Topics like that. Even the World Bank, several times I was invited to speak on Gandhi's economic principles, his ideas of trusteeship and so forth.
So some of those principles and theories that are still very much relevant to the current environment that we live in today in a modern world?
You know, I'll put the answer to that Morarji Desai gave when he spoke at the Gandhi Center.
He was a finance
when he was
minister.
Prime Minister.
Yes, he was.
When he was Prime Minister.
You're absolutely right.
And he kind of put it in a nutshell, and he said, is truth irrelevant at any time?
This gives me a segue to ask you a question. What are the most striking features about Gandhi's character that you believe can serve Americans and other non-Indian these days?
I would say that the one is his comprehensive ideal of life and the oneness of God, called by any name, nature, and person. That would be a spiritual GNP.
A spiritual GNP.
God, nature, and person. That looking upon nature as our material, not just material surroundings, but an alma mater to our home. And that requires a certain ethic.
As you know, Martin Luther King, who was a great leader of our nation, who inspired all of us in America, took the page out of the Gandhi's book on the nonviolent movement.
Mm-hmm.
As a result of that, we have President of the United States, Obama, who's an African American. That is a great story.
It is a wonderful story. And
and that is what America is all about.
Yes, yes it is.
And I want to thank you for what you do for our nation. What is your vision for the next steps as you move forward with your journey? And you and I will not be there for many years after several years. So what legacy would you leave behind?
I would say as Gandhi would do, one step at a time. You know, we see the figure of Gandhi that looms so large, but we often lose sight of the fact that the steps that he took were the steps that can be taken by any person, but he took them one step at a time, and that was his immense yoga.
Mm-hmm. Immense yoga.
Yes.
and you still practice the yoga.
That is it.
That is it.
That is it.
So your vision to build upon what you have founded and what you worked on for the next generation to take to the next plateau in their journey.
To give them every invitation and opportunity to participate in the life and discover in themselves the power and the benefit of doing so, and sharing.
Gandhi, as an Indian American, he was my hero. He was father of our nation. And what you do for him, we are proud of you, what you do. And thank you for coming. I hope our path will cross again.
I do
and
too.
you will come back to our show again.
My pleasure.
That is our show. Until next time, this is Frank Islam. Thank you for watching our show.
This brings us to an end of this delightful edition of the Capital Forum. I hope you enjoyed our various dialogues of politics, who's who, a new page in medicine, and the rotating world of immigration and business issues. Next week, we will bring you more information to navigate you through the who's who and what's what of your modern lifestyle. Until next week, I'm Rajesh Mehra, your host of the Capital Forum, signing off from the studios of GTV. Hope to see you at the same time on the same channel next week. Don't forget that date with us. Take care and bye for now.